In August 2026, some of the wealthiest travelers in the world are, they're going to pay thousands of dollars for these highly exclusive, ultra-curated eclipse viewing parties in Mallorca.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
They're going to charter yachts, book out Michelin-starred terraces, coordinate these just wildly elaborate itineraries.
Right. And yet when the sky actually goes dark, a lot of them are going to realize, unfortunately too late, that the absolute best, most frictionless view on the entire island is, it's happening from a public football pitch in a small inland town called Pina.
It really is the ultimate irony.
It is. So welcome to today's deep dive. We are looking ahead to August 12, 2026, when this profoundly rare masterpiece comes to the Balearic Islands, which is a total solar eclipse.
Yes.
And we're drawing on a really fascinating stack of sources today. We've got the official informational repository from the government of the Balearic Islands, their Eclipse Seguro initiative.
Right, their safety campaign.
Exactly, along with an editorial from the luxury hospitality consultancy Luxure, and some very detailed visual notes that capture the actual aesthetic reality of Totality.
Which are just striking to read through.
Truly. So our mission today for you, the listener, is to explore how to navigate the logistical noise of this event and why the ultimate luxury might just be finding a state of complete, unadorned presence.
You know, what's fascinating here is the sheer scale of the logistical collision we are observing.
Yeah.
We're looking at a phenomenon where public administration, astronomical science, and the philosophy of high-end hospitality are all basically crashing into each other over the span of single afternoon.
Just colliding all at once.
Exactly. And the fallout from that collision is highly counterintuitive. I mean, you would expect the highest-end venues on the island to be heavily capitalizing on this.
But they're doing the exact opposite, because looking at the editorial from Luxure, there's this massive municipal confusion happening right now. High-end restaurants and local businesses in these very specific areas, Sòller, Fornalutx, Playa de Palma, they are actively canceling their eclipse events.
Just completely pulling the plug.
Yeah, they're pulling the plug completely.
Well, the mechanics behind those cancellations are entirely rooted in infrastructure. If you look at the geography of Mallorca, places like Sòller and Fornalutx are nestled deep within the Tramuntana mountain range.
Right, the terrain is quite intense there.
Very much so. They are accessed by these winding, narrow, incredibly constrained roads. So when an astronomical event of this magnitude occurs, you are dealing with tens of thousands of observers who all want to stop their cars and look up at the exact same moment.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I am genuinely puzzled here.
Sure.
I mean, I understand a traffic jam, but why cancel a lucrative, highly ticketed event just because the roads might be busy? More than half the island sits comfortably within the path of Totality, right? The sky is literally everywhere.
Well, it is not just about a busy road. It is about absolute gridlock and, honestly, liability.
Ah, liability.
Yes. If 10,000 rental cars attempt to pull over on the Man 11 mountain pass right as the sky goes pitch black, emergency services are paralyzed.
Oh, wow. I hadn't thought of that.
Right. The restaurants in these areas realize they cannot guarantee their suppliers will arrive, and they definitely cannot guarantee their high-paying guests will even physically reach the venue before Totality ends.
That's a disaster.
It is. They are attempting to monetize a universal natural phenomenon, but they are paralyzed by the physical bottlenecks of their own geography.
So they're basically trying to put a velvet rope around the sun and realizing they can't even get people to the rope.
That is a perfect way to phrase it, which is why the response from the government of the Balearic Islands, the GOIB, is so crucial here.
Right, the Eclipse Seguro initiative.
Exactly. Through that initiative, they have completely bypassed this local municipal panic. They analyzed the sightlines, the infrastructure, and the traffic flow, and they established 9 official zones de observación, official, or ZOOs.
Okay, I am looking at the list of these official ZOs, and this is where I need to push back a little.
Go ahead.
The government has selected locations like, as I mentioned, a local football pitch in Pina, a municipal car park in Petra via the MA 3220, and some coastal stretches out by Mayoris and Toleric.
Right.
If I am flying to Mallorca for a once-in-a-century celestial event, standing in a car park in Petra does not immediately sound like a luxury experience. It sounds like I failed to plan ahead.
I get that. But that reaction perfectly illustrates the modern misconception of luxury.
How so?
Well, we have been conditioned to believe that luxury requires accumulation. We think it requires a complex itinerary, an exclusive venue, white glove service.
Yeah, more is more.
Exactly. But the government strategy here highlights a completely different mechanism. By designating a vast, accessible space with guaranteed clear sightlines and pre-managed traffic flow, they are removing the single biggest threat to your experience, which is friction.
So subtraction over addition.
Precisely. Let's analyze the mechanics of the alternative. Say you decide to bypass the government zones and charter a private yacht to view the eclipse off the coast of Playa de Palma.
I mean, that sounds incredibly luxurious.
It sounds like it, yes. But an ocean vessel introduces multiple variables. You have the swell of the sea, which makes it nearly impossible to hold binoculars or a solar telescope steady.
Oh, right. You're constantly moving.
Right. You have the noise of the engines or the generator, the movement of the crew, the constant micro-adjustments of navigation.
Right.
You're paying a premium to introduce friction into an event that demands stillness.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the consultants at Luxor base their entire editorial on this exact premise.
They do.
They argue that true luxury in 2026 is no longer about ostentatious display. It is about absolute quietude. They actually use the term unadorned presence.
Unadorned presence. It is a highly precise way to describe the ideal state for astronomical observation. The philosophy suggests that the highest tier of hospitality is not about adding layers of service between you and the event. It is about stripping away every possible distraction.
And the GOIB zones provide the physical infrastructure for that subtraction.
Exactly. By guaranteeing that your arrival day holds zero administrative surprises, the government assumes the burden of the logistics.
Leaving you with the mental bandwidth to actually comprehend what you are looking at.
Which is vital.
But Luxor notes that achieving this unadorned presence does require some very specific tools. You can't just walk out into a field.
No, absolutely not.
They insist on a concise astronomical timing guide and solar-certified glasses.
Understanding the mechanics of what you are observing is non-negotiable. The GOIB repository provides these timing guides because an eclipse is not just a single moment. It is a progression of very distinct physical phases.
Right.
And the longest phase is the penumbra.
The penumbra, that is the partial phase, correct, when the moon just begins to overlap the sun.
Yes. Think of the mechanics of shadow. If you hold your hand up against a wall illuminated by a single tiny light bulb, the shadow is sharp.
Okay, yeah.
But the sun is massive. It acts as a broad light source. As the moon slowly slides in front of it, it creates a gradient shadow on the Earth.
And so you are standing in the penumbra.
Right. The ambient light subtly darkens, but in a very unsettling way.
I have read descriptions of this where people say the light takes on a metallic, almost cinematic quality.
Yes.
It doesn't look like sunset because the sun is still high in the sky, and the shadows on the ground actually sharpen.
The sharpening of shadows is a fascinating optical effect. Because the visible sliver of the sun is becoming narrower, the light source is effectively shrinking from a broad disk to a thin crescent.
Oh, and a smaller light source projects a sharper, crisper shadow.
Exactly. The temperature also drops noticeably. Without a timing guide, this hour-long phase can feel merely strange. But with a guide, you understand you're experiencing the mechanics of celestial mechanics in real time.
So you track the penumbra with your solar glasses, feeling the temperature drop, watching the shadows sharpen.
Right.
And then you reach totality. Which brings us to the visual notes in our source stack. Because once you achieve this logistical calm, once you are sitting on that quiet clifftop in Balearic, completely insulated from the traffic panic in Sòller, what is it you actually see?
The visual notes provide a deeply compelling description of totality over the Balearic Sea.
They really do.
When the moon completely obscures the photosphere, which is the bright main body of the sun, the sky plunges into a deep twilight. But the most striking element is not the darkness. It is the solar corona.
The glowing halo around the moon.
Yes. The corona is the sun's outer atmosphere. It is composed of plasma heated to millions of degrees, extending far out into space.
Wow.
Normally, the sheer blinding brightness of the sun's main body completely drowns it out. You can never see it. But during those few minutes of totality, the moon acts as a perfect, pitch-black shield.
And the corona suddenly becomes visible to the naked eye.
It emits this pearlescent, ethereal white light.
The source notes focus very heavily on what happens to that specific light when it interacts with the ocean below.
Right.
We are talking about a vantage point looking out over the water, and the notes describe a single sharp vertical line of white light stretching across the completely palm dark horizon.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that visual phenomenon is the culmination of everything we were discussing today. There is a very specific physical reason it looks like a single sharp line.
See, I want to know the physics behind that because normally sunlight on the ocean creates a massive blinding glare, a huge scattering of light across the waves. Why does totality create a single vertical line?
It comes down to specular reflection and extreme contrast. On a typical afternoon, the sun is a massive, intensely bright light source, and the ambient sky is also bright, scattering light everywhere.
Right, the sky is blue and bright.
Exactly. The ocean reflects all of that chaotic, broad illumination, but during totality, the sky goes dark. The ambient scattering vanishes.
Oh, I see.
Your only light source is the corona, which is relatively faint, about the brightness of a full moon, and shaped like a highly concentrated thin ring.
So it is essentially a highly focused beam of light in a dark room rather than a floodlight.
Precisely. When that singular concentrated ring of light hits the calm summer waters of the Balearic Sea, the slight, gentle undulation of the water creates what physicists call a glitter path.
A glitter path.
Yes, because the light source is so distinct and the surrounding environment is so dark, the glitter path doesn't scatter out wide. It reflects as a stark, vertical pillar, drawing a straight line from the horizon directly to the observer.
So what does this all mean when you describe the mechanics of that, a dark sky, the glowing plasma of the corona, and a single pillar of light reflecting on a still ocean? It does not sound like an explosive astronomical spectacle.
No, it doesn't.
It sounds incredibly restrained. It sounds like a profound sensory pause.
This raises an important question regarding how we interact with monumental events. We live in an era characterized by overwhelming sensory input and constant logistical movement.
Absolutely.
We assume that a once-in-a-century event requires an equally loud, complex reaction, but the phenomenon itself demands the exact opposite.
It is nature enforcing that concept of unadorned presence. You literally cannot be distracted because the universe has turned down the volume on the entire environment.
That's a beautiful way to look at it.
The light is gone. The warmth is gone. All you have is that one sharp line on the water.
The visual simplicity of the eclipse perfectly mirrors the philosophical simplicity that luxury advocates. When the sky darkens and all you are left with is that single reflection, it forces the observer into a state of absolute, quiet observation. There is nowhere else to look.
It really reframes the panic happening in the municipalities.
Does it?
The restaurants in Fornalutx rushing to sell VIP tickets, the tourists desperately trying to drive up a mountain pass. They are fighting to add friction to an event whose entire aesthetic value is based on profound stillness.
They are entirely missing the point of the silence. By trying to accumulate an experience, they are guaranteeing they'll be too distracted by the logistics to actually observe the corona or understand the sharp shadows of the Penumbra.
Yeah.
Quiet observation is not just a poetic ideal here, it is a mechanical necessity for experiencing the event properly.
Which brings us back to those GOIB zones, the football pitch in Pina and the coastal access in Balearic. At the start of this, I was highly skeptical of viewing a luxury event from a municipal car park.
Understandably so.
But looking at the physics of what is actually happening in the sky, those zones are offering the highest tier of luxury possible.
They offer the rarest commodity on the island, which is guaranteed stillness. By utilizing a thoroughly vetted, pre-planned zone, you decouple yourself entirely from the public administrative confusion.
Right.
You secure a space where you can simply exist unbothered, while the cosmos aligns.
As we synthesize the insights from all these sources, a very clear directive emerges for anyone planning to be in the Balearic Islands in August 2026.
Yes.
True, refined luxury is absolutely not about what you can add to your itinerary. It is about what you can aggressively remove. It is about stripping away the friction, the noise, and the uncertainty.
And we must recognize the stark contrast between the fleeting nature of the event and the permanence of the observation. Totality itself is incredibly brief.
Just a couple of minutes, right?
Yes, you only have a few minutes of that darkened sky and that sharp line of light on the water before the sun returns. It is deeply temporary.
But the impact of experiencing that brief window with absolute clarity is permanent. The penumbra fades, the traffic in Sòller eventually untangles itself, but the memory of sitting in total quietude while the fundamental mechanics of the solar system reveal themselves, that endures.
The practical application for you, the listener, is unequivocal. Do not wait for a stressed-out hospitality sector to figure out their access plans.
Definitely not.
You must ignore the local municipal panic entirely. Rely on the official Eclipse Seguro materials. Download the astronomical timing guide so you understand the physics of what you are seeing and plan your observation from one of those 9 official ZOO locations.
Let the government absorb the logistical friction.
Precisely.
Secure the privilege of unadorned presence. Let everyone else panic at the gallery door while you sit quietly with the art.
A fitting way to approach a masterpiece.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with something to ponder long after you take off your headphones. We have explored how the mechanics of a rare celestial event force us to stop, look up, and find genuine luxury in stripping away all the noise. We need the cosmos to plunge us into momentary darkness to finally appreciate unadorned presence. But consider this, if true luxury is simply the removal of friction to achieve absolute quietude, how might we cultivate that same friction-free presence in our everyday lives without needing the sun to disappear to finally give us a moment of stillness?